Evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Revived Poet Society, where we bring dead authors and poets back to life for one last interview. And boy, do we have a show for you tonight. He's the author of the acclaimed novels The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo, and an amazing playwright who has shaped French literature more than almost any 19th century author before dying in 1870. Please give it up for Alexandre Dumas.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to be on your show tonight.
And thank you for coming. Now let's get started. What were your origins as a writer? What inspired you to write?
Well, I would have to start at the beginning. I was born in 1802, under the reign of the great Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte. Now, my father was a general under him, but he died when I was very little, so we grew up poor. However, I took every chance I could to read. When I reached my early 20s, I moved to Paris, and because of my fantastic handwriting, became a secretary under the Duc d'Orleans, who would eventually become King Louis Philippe. Now, he had a vast library with many amazing books and novels, so I read great authors such as Shakespeare and Lord Byron while working for him. When one day, this English acting troupe came through Paris, and I saw them, and it was life-changing. They were an amazing, talented group of actors, and it inspired me to want to write plays myself, to come up with the amazing stories they portrayed. So, that's and the rest is history.
Of course, I've heard you involved in politics as well as writing, however.
Yes. I participated in the Revolution of 1830 as a double agent, and I also spent some time in Italy and was friends with Giuseppe Garibaldi in his attempts to unify Italy under Naples.
You must have had a very interesting action-filled life then.
Oh yes. I believe that the two most important elements to a person's life are l'action and l'amour, or action and love. See, I tried to include these elements into almost all of my novels, and I also enjoyed much of it in my own life as well, but I swear, I only had 3 children.
Sure. Speaking of action and love, let's talk about your most famous work, the fantastic novel The Three Musketeers. It's such an amazing story for those of you who don't know it, about a young man named D'Artagnan, aspiring to become a musketeer, just like his friends Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. The story follows the adventure he and the 3 musketeers go through, involving love, deception, dueling, death, you name it. What inspired you to write this amazing novel?
Well, I found a quite fascinating fake memoir, which included many of the main characters I would include in my story, including D'Artagnan, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis. But I also decided that I was going to write a novel including real historical elements with great figures in French history, such as Louis XIII, Cardinal Richelieu, and the Duke of Buckingham. Now, I wrote this amazing story with my frequent collaborator and good friend Auguste Maquet, and to this day, well, I would say this day, but I died about 130 years ago, but to this day, it is still one of my favorite novels I have ever written.
Well, I guess l'action and l'amour are just the perfect ingredients to make a gripping story that today has been made into countless movies and is still commonly referred to in pop culture. And your other works have done just as well. They even made a movie based on The Man in the Iron Mask, starring Leonardo DiCaprio.
I do not know who that is, but that sounds wonderful, and I am glad my stories have held up so well. Out of curiosity, how have my plays done? I've always loved the art of playwriting, and even founded my own theater, the Théâtre Historique, to perform my plays.
Your plays haven't stood the test of time as well as your novels, but your house is now a popular tourist attraction in France.
I'm glad. That place cost me a fortune, but being in debt never worried me. I may have died penniless, but I was optimistic to the end. You see, life was worth living, with its ups and downs, and I had
l'action and l'amour.
Exactly. And that's what makes life worth living.
I'm afraid that's all we have time for, but I thank you for coming on our show tonight. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alexandre Dumas.